Did you know that we have an actual emotional Jedi group happening right now if you are in Houston? Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10:30 a.m. for the next 8 weeks, we are going to be running the emotional Jedi group. So if you are a person who is out there really struggling with your emotional life, you don't understand your emotions, maybe you're blowing up on people, maybe they're really held in, you've been suppressing or repressing them for so long to survive that you're not really sure how to just be emotionally. If any of those things sound like you, become an emotional Jedi with me. You can go to the show notes. There is a link in there to learn more, or you can text me directly at 281-713-5165 emotional Jedi, and I will send you back everything that you need to know. Okay, one more time. That is 281-713-5165. Looking forward to talking to you. Enjoy the rest of the episode, folks.
Hey, beautiful beings. Welcome back. This is a one-off special bonus episode of Empowered Human. I am your host, Nina Garcia. We are in the middle of many throwback episodes going back over the years because I've been working on the book in the background. But I had something life-changing happen to me, and I'm sitting with a new experience, and I am called to share it, per usual. And today's episode, the question in today's episode is going to be, what is the cost of hiding an emotion? And I want to go a step deeper with that. I want you to explore what is the cost of suppressing or repressing an emotion instead of letting it move through you. The answer, in a nutshell, is going to be, from my end, an insidious amount, a cost that creeps up on you that you cannot quantify. But because I'm not you, I'm going to let you decide what is the cost of hiding an emotion. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. There is a particular arc to every episode. I do the intro, we'll do a breath. I'll tell you a story, a personal story about an experience that I've had emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, energetically, right? I'm going to offer you some psychoeducation, right? This is going to come from a drama therapist lens. There is an adventure challenge at the end of every episode. And I want to be really clear that the episode is designed for you to walk with me through scary territory so that we can come out on the other side having transformed a hard moment, a hard conversation, into a teachable conversation, okay? So I don't recommend that you listen and jump ship. I recommend that you plan in that 30 minutes, that cup of tea, that lunch break, and you listen through, because if you go with me, we will come out on the other side together. Yeah? Okay. Grab a journal or a really good friend to dialogue with about what will come up for you in this episode. And because it is going to deal with my personal story and some of the things that I have been struggling with. If you know me personally, this episode might be triggering for you. You don't have to listen, and that's okay, right? If you don't know me and you are not in the mood to talk about suicidal ideation, which is thinking about suicide and suicidal parts that pop up, it's not going to get dark, folks. It's not going to get crazy dark, but it could bring up feelings. Yes, feelings, emotions, which is exactly what I'm intending for us to explore today. So, with that said, the question again is, what is the cost of hiding an emotion instead of letting it move through you? Are you ready to play? Welcome to Empowered Human, the dramatically playful podcast that invites you to heal humanity, the one within you, me, and the world at large. I'm your host, drama therapist, empowerment specialist, and not to mention empowered human, Nina Garcia, and I'm so stoked you're joining me on the journey. Every Wednesday, you are invited to explore transforming from powered to empowered with genuinely human stories of courageous existence, healing from invalidation, and truly belonging to you. So wherever you are on the spectrum, from empowerment curious to empowered human ambassador, this podcast is designed to humanize Get ready to lean into your edge, heal your worldview, and finally belong to you. This is Empowered Human. Let's go ahead and take a breath. Inhale, stretch it out if you need. We're here together. Oh, exhale it out and down. Ooh. So we're going to jump right into the story. And here's a reality. I think a lot of people make this assumption about therapists that we're like these perfect people who have no problems, right? Therapists need therapists too. I've jumped into therapy individually, in couples work, in group work, right? And it's always with the intention to explore something that feels uncomfortable or painful so that I can come out on the other side, right? And today's episode is going to explore what this life-changing moment. I had a suicidal part pop up. And if you've never had that or know what that means, stick with me because I'm going to explore with you here. We're going to play with this a little bit. I've had a suicidal part pop up 3 times in my life. Now, the first time it popped up as a very depressive part in graduate school. I remember waking up one morning and not wanting to get out of bed. And I felt like there was this woman standing next to me with a black shroud over her head. And she covered me in this black blanket. I could see this in my head, right? I'm imagining this. And she was like, it's okay. You don't have to get up. Don't get up. We're not meant to get up anymore. This is it. And that was the first time that I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? The weight of it. And that was the depressive, suicidal part. Now, we're not going to explore that part, but I want to share it with you because I'm going to show you how different these parts pop up and why they do that in our life. The second time I had a suicidal part pop up was during my divorce, and this one was much more actively suicidal than the first one. This one popped up during my divorce. And I want to be clear, if you don't know why suicidal parts pop up, they pop up to let you know that you are feeling hopeless and helpless. So when you write that down in your journal, right? Why is the suicidal part here? Hopeless, like there are no exits from the overwhelming pain that you were in. And helpless, like even if there were, you couldn't do anything about it. So before I keep going, most of us have been taught that when you feel intense emotions like this, that you should just hide them away. Too angry, too sad, too afraid, too disgusted, too joyful, all of it, just put it away, put it underneath the carpet, hide it in the closet, stash it in the attic. But you know what the reality is? You know what they don't tell you? The reality is, even if you are good, and I mean really good at doing that, you are still hiding all of those emotions in your house, which is your body. You are housing these emotions in your body. They're under your carpet, in your closet, and in your attic. And if we imagine that emotions are in us all the time, the energy for an emotion is in us all the time, but it gets turned on, right? It gets activated by something in our environment. And if it doesn't move through us, my friends, it will hijack us, just like a suicidal part is willing to do. So I want to go back to the story, right? I told you that my last, right, the second one was a part of my divorce process. She held on to the darkest feelings that I did not want to feel at the time, which were resentment and anger. If you have a part out there that you're exploring, right? Asking yourself, what are the feelings that she, he, they, it, right? Parts pop up in so many different ways. But what is it that they're feeling for you? What is it that they're holding on to for you? Instead of me feeling and moving through my own resentment and anger because I was holding on to it, she was holding on to it for me, she directed it at me. I am the owner of the house after all, aren't I? And I'm not quite letting that move through. I needed that resentment and anger to move through me, and instead I was holding on to it in an effort to feel some sense of control over the loss of a marriage I did not want, yet also could not control every facet of losing. I want to play that back for you. Why did I feel hopeless and helpless? Because even though I did not want that marriage, I could not control how I was losing it. Control shows up in a lot of our emotional hijacking, our feelings like we cannot control things, because the reality is there is so much we cannot control. But I come to you with this episode today because I have recently been struggling with a new suicidal part. She popped up once, and literally within 24 hours, I was in, heard the echo, the whisper in the background, back in therapy, doing the work. And I'm going to share some of that with you here today. But I found myself in that moment once again, right? In my life, I've been trying to control the end of a relationship. And one thing you should know is that I have a pattern of grieving while I am in the relationship, right? I grieve while I'm in the relationship, so that by the time I am ready to leave that relationship, I have also had the time to say goodbye to the part of me that wanted to keep growing with that partner. In this particular relationship, I thought that if I could jump ship sooner, right? This is different now. I was like, let's not grieve in the relationship. Let's just jump ship sooner, Nina. I thought, in a very intellectualizing way, that it would help me move on faster. But oh my God, was I wrong. I have never ended a relationship before grieving it while still in the relationship. And I can tell you right now, I would never friggin' do this again. The woman who was growing in that relationship, who had hopes and beliefs about where that relationship could have gone, that part of me is still very much alive in me. And because I did not let her grieve and slowly die, I still feel her dying in me. She is bereft. She is without, right? Not of a man, but of a life she dreamed of living with that man. And for this part of me, there is no comfort I can give her. I cannot save her from her fate. The pain that I feel as a whole human being is acutely from this part who is trying desperately to survive, right? That's what our emotions want to do. They want to survive. They want us to survive. She desperately believes that she needs to survive. But emotions, and you make sure to get this in your journal, folks, emotions, they're really good at thinking short term, not long term. And she's in a lot of pain right now. So here she is desperately trying to survive. But I have to let her die. She's very different than my last suicidal part, right? When I think about my divorcee part, that's the name of the suicidal part that popped up in my divorce. She represented resentment and anger. She held those things for me. And when I worked on her therapeutically, right, in a very drama therapy way, we imagine how these parts look. And to me, the divorcee looked like an austere teacher. She was rigid. Her hair was up in a bun, and she was ready to tear me down at any second. But the part I'm dealing with now is very different. The part I'm dealing with now, after doing some drama therapy work on it, my own personal processing, she looks like a she still, right? Sometimes our parts look like different genders, non-gendered animals, creatures, things, objects, places. They can look like anything, but she looks like a she. And she looks as if she's been cast out. She's on the floor, on the ground. She's covered in mud, and she's on her hands and her knees by a muddy riverbank. And I can tell that sometimes the river behind her overflows and she's drowning. She's drowning in so much sadness. And she reaches out and she's saying, "Save me. Nina, please save me." But I cannot save her. And I also can't let her drown over and over again. She reaches out, and in this moment, as I was doing my therapy processing, looking at this part and really actually being present with my sadness, folks, if you've never done this emotional work, that's what this is. I'm actually being with my sadness, not overwhelmed by it, not drowning, but being with it. And it occurs to me as she's reaching out that in this moment she can see me and reach out to me, but she has been reaching out for my ex. She has been asking, save me, save me. But in this moment, as I stand with her, she needs to be laid to rest. She cannot stay, right? My sadness cannot stay on the banks of a river. She needs to come home. And so I knew I was going to cry in this episode. I tried to go for a run to emotionally funnel some of this out, but this is still here for me. And I want to take a minute to really say, this is not a glorification or a romanticizing of emotions, right? This is not a glorification or romanticizing of grief, which is actually what I'm experiencing, right? And we'll talk more about that in a bit. In drama therapy, we regularly explore different parts of ourselves, just like I am sharing with you. And I want you to have a window into what your emotional process could be like toward healing. We get to know ourselves so well so that we can see these parts coming from a mile away. She came to me and she sounded like a dull, dull, dull whisper in the background. And I thought, oh my God, I feel it again. That feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. And what does she look like? And this is what came from me actually being willing to courageously do this work. We talk to these parts and we listen to them and we make sure that they're seen and felt and heard, because, my friend, an emotion that is unseen and unfelt and unheard will hijack you. It will show up in insidious ways in your life. This part, this sad woman on the riverbank's edge, she represents my sadness and my fear. I thought that I could get away from them if I jumped ship sooner, and I was wrong. And I am not afraid to admit that I was wrong. This part holds the fears in me. She is afraid. When I speak with her, she is afraid that she will be forgotten, that she will have never existed. She's afraid that she will have never mattered at all, and she is afraid that if I let her go, that then I will believe those things to be true about me. That I was forgotten, that I never existed, and that I never mattered at all in that relationship. But I don't believe that. As a whole, I don't believe that. Do you remember when I told you that emotions are really good at thinking short-term? They're not very good at thinking long-term, and I am trying to be a little bit of a long-term thinker in here, and I don't believe that I will always feel this way. I believe that this pain, that this grief that I'm experiencing is temporary. And I don't know, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if temporary is more weeks of this or months or, oh my God, hell, years of this? Listen, I hope not. I hope not. But the reality is I am not a fortune teller, and neither are you. We are not fortune tellers. And in this moment in my process, my only business right now is what's happening to me in the present. And in the present, part of me, not all of me, but a part of me is drowning. So one of the things that I do with my clients is what I will do with you here in this moment. We are going to give this part what it needs. It has been sounding an alarm. I haven't been listening. I thought that I could get over this. And let me tell you right now, practicing what I preach here, you can't get over it. You can get through it. You can't get around it. You can't cut it out, but you can get through it. I share this with you right now. And the ground is not falling out from beneath me. The sky is not falling from above me. You and I are going to walk through this, and we're going to do the hard work so that we can come out feeling lighter on the other end. And this part, I cannot avoid her anymore. She needs to be laid to rest. She's tired. She's so tired. And her drowning, this part of me that is drowning, causes dysfunction in other areas of my life. I've been taking you through the imaginal space with me, the dramatic healing space with me, but in reality, what does this look like? This grief that I experience looks like me crying when I don't want to cry. I cry for hours if there is no one around. I struggle to eat and I cannot sleep through the night. And these are just the biggest things that I notice, right? When I asked you at the beginning of this episode, what is the cost of repressing, suppressing, hiding, avoiding an emotion? It is often insidious. And while these are some of the obvious ways, there may be some not so obvious things too. So we go back to this part that I am now imagining, that I am there on the riverbank with her, that I am in the mud with her. She is not alone. I gather her onto my lap and I hold her because she is in so much pain that she can't stand. She can't even sit next to me. I bring her closer and I hug her to my chest and I tell her what she needs to hear and also what I need to say. I tell her I love you and what you felt was real and it mattered. And just because you cannot bring the dream that you had to fruition does not mean that you failed. It does not mean that you are alone. I am here with you, and I will never forget you. You will live on in me, and you will be a memory. You will be a part of my story, and I will bear you as a moment in my soul that I know will heal with time. You don't need to hold on anymore. You can let it go. Close your eyes. Rest. I'm not losing you. I'm just taking you back where you belong because it's not here on the riverbanks, baby. It's with me. I gotta take you back home where the heart is, honey. You cannot stay on the riverbank. You gotta come home to me. And I've got you. I'm gonna take a minute here with you guys, and I'm just gonna breathe. I'm gonna breathe into the spaces of me that feel tight, that feel tension, and I'm gonna give them some friggin' space because I deserve to feel space, and so do they. We're not meant to hold on to tension and pain like this. We gotta move it through us. And so in this moment, in reality, I am breathing and I'm taking a minute before I go back to imagining being with this part, and I breathe with her. And I look down at her and she is quiet. And I'm still here on the riverbank and I'm holding her, and her chest is on my lap and her face is on my stomach and her arms are around me, and I will not let her go. I cannot let her go because she matters. And the reality in this moment, in this part of my healing process is this part is not ready to get up and go yet. If she were, I would share that with you, but I can feel that she's not ready. But I promise you, I promise her that when she is ready, I will gather her into me and I will bring her home. Take a breath. Grief is the experience that I am having, that I have been having for the better part of 2 months now, as I record this episode, right? The better part of 2 months. And for those of you new to the idea of grief, it's an experience that actually encapsulates many emotions, right? It's not just sadness or depression. And in fact, sometimes the grief doesn't have depression, right? It's many things, some of which you are hearing about today, many of which you are not. And as an empowered human, right, about courage and healing and belonging, I will continue to resist the idea that our emotions are black and white, or that anything we feel or do is black and white. Your emotional landscape is a colorful experience, whether you acknowledge that or not. And meeting myself where I am at on my emotional landscape, I'm finding that a part of me has been left alone and that I need to be with her far more often than I have acknowledged. And that in time, I believe she will be ready to come home. I believe she will let me bring her home. And that until that day, guess what, folks? The water may rise again. My sadness may overwhelm me again. And she and I may float just above the water. Hell, we may even go under the water. But you know what? I am not leaving her alone to deal with that. I have to feel that. I have to be with her. We cannot cut out our emotions. There is no way around them. You cannot get over it. There is only through. We feel it through. And I will not let this part go through this alone anymore. Because if you haven't realized by now, whatever it is that you are suppressing or repressing is still within you. Whatever you're hiding or avoiding emotionally, it is still housed within you. And you matter. We are nearing the end of the episode, and I am wondering, what are you taking away? You know, we've talked about grief as an experience, how it encapsulates many emotions. Definitely get your journals out, folks, if you haven't already. We've talked about the idea of emotions moving through you, right? How many of us have been taught to hide them away, intentionally to hide them away, but how their job, right? The reason an emotion is designed the way it is, its job is to be seen and felt and heard by you. We touched on emotional hijacking, right? This is what happens if you don't acknowledge how you're feeling in the present and really feel that feeling. You might come out your face at somebody else, right? Hurt them emotionally, physically, mentally, or you might do that to yourself. You got to really feel the feelings through so that you don't become emotionally hijacked. And we talked about suicidal parts popping up when we feel hopeless and helpless. And all of this, right, some of this emotional Jedi level work is not rocket science, but it is work, right? This is emotional labor that we're doing here. But this is not magic. It's not rocket science. These things that I have done here with you today, they're tools that you can explore, right? We explored them in the episode. You too can become skilled in them. And if you're like, Nina, I'm not ready to become skilled in that or do that kind of emotional labor, then you know what? Maybe this was just a human to human experience for you. And that's okay too. I think for me, if I really were to check in this moment, sitting in this moment with you here, I think my takeaway is this is only my second time going to the riverbank to explore. The first time I cried for about 80 minutes straight. And as I share this with you now, she's still sleeping. She's been asleep since then. She's resting on me. I don't feel like she's ready to get up. I don't feel like I'm ready to leave the riverbank. But I also haven't been drowning. Drowning, and I gotta tell you, dare I say it, it feels, as I check in now, like there's hope. Yeah, like there's that light. Back at the end of the tunnel, I can look back and I can see the house is just there, and when she's ready, I'll gather her into me and we'll go home. We'll go home. For those of you who like an adventure challenge, I typically offer 3 options at the end of an episode for you to develop your own empowered human self, and in this case, right, this episode is really big on the emotional Jedi self, but I'm going to be human with you. I really don't want to invite you to do a lot of extra work. I am emotionally exhausted in this moment, right? I am grateful for my own healing process, but when I think about offering you an adventure challenge, I really think I just want to ask you, are you hiding or avoiding an emotional part within you? Have you been suppressing or repressing an emotional part for longer than you can remember? Hiding it under the carpet or in the closet or stashing it in the attic? And are there any parts of you that need to be seen and felt and heard so you can move through them? And I think if I were to honor the part of me that needed rest, she needed to let go. She needs to be laid to rest so she can come home to me again. I think my last offering and question to you as an adventure challenge would be, are there any parts of you that just need rest? You matter. You matter so freaking much. I know that this is the end of the episode and then I'm going to be saying goodbye to you shortly. And by the grace of the universe, if you happen to listen to this episode as it airs, we have an emotional Jedi group that is up right now. If you're wanting to do this level of work, just DM me on Instagram, right? Drama Therapist Nina. Text me, right? Emotional Jedi at 281-713-5165. I'm here for it. But you matter. Really put yourself in the center right now. The center of your own story, back in your own spotlight. Give yourself what you need with those adventure challenge questions that I ask so that you can feel like you are able to move through this and come out the other side. You matter. Know that I am sending you so much love as you move forward on your journey. Love for all parts of you, even the parts that are uncomfortable or sticky. They have some type of message or alarm that they're trying to send to you. Listen. And may your healing journey continue as I hope mine does. Until next time, thanks for listening, and bye for now. Thank you so much for being willing to explore healing your humanity on Empowered Human. I hope you found at least one new way to transform your worldview from powered to empowered. If you took something from the show, please take a moment of your time and subscribe to Empowered Human. And if it really nourished you, leave us a review. Your feedback helps me understand what our community needs. Not to mention, it helps others discover the empowered human life. So keep this last bit in mind. All the visual goodies come with me on Instagram at Drama Therapist Nina. Stay up to date there on upcoming episodes, behind the scenes goodness, and reels dropping knowledge. Thank you again for being part of the empowered human community. Until next time, stay curious.